The first one was my wife. I asked her, would you like to have a go at this? And she said, well, I don't really know what it is I'm doing. I said, don't worry, I'll guide you. Could my approach to the markets be replicated by somebody else? That was what I was trying to prove. It wasn't long. I can remember I got out of bed a bit late one morning and she is actually lying on the sofa and she's got her phone in her hand. And as I walked past, I could see that she's got a trading chart on her phone. Up until this point, the only trading I'd ever seen her do was, at the PC. I said, what are you doing? Are you studying? Oh, no, she said, I'm actually trading. I said, how many trades have you taken? And she said, I think it's about 10. I said, can I have a look at your P&L? So shall we go to the P&L on the phone? She'd actually won 9 out of 11 trades on her phone. Now, she carried on trading on the phone for a number of weeks after. And she got losers, but I think the worst I ever seen on her phone was about 70% win rate. She did it for a good number of weeks. And I said, right now, let's set you a challenge. Let's see what you can do in a day. She made little over 5,000 on the first day. I was like gobsmacked. It was almost like she was a natural.
All right, folks. So finally, after 4 years, I'm able to introduce you to my own private mentor who I've mentioned on the show before. And it's the reason that people keep asking me, why don't you use anything that the traders you've interviewed have shared on the show? And this is the reason, because this guy's pretty much told me how to read price like a pro, right? I feel very confident in reading a price chart based on what he's taught me over the last 4 years. You guys are finally getting a chance to hear from him, hear his trading journey and how he's helped me and others along his journey as a trader. And I'm so pleased to bring him to the show. As a special treat, we're also going to be doing a massive giveaway as well. And you're going to get to see some other things from him, which are very, I suppose, personal to him. And he is a very private guy. So we're only going to get to see the avatar of him on the screen, but hear everything about his story. So welcome to the show, JJ.
Hey, Dal, thanks for the invitation. It's good to be here.
Well, it's great to finally get you on because it has been ages. And I know we even spoke about this maybe 2-3 years ago. And finally, we have it is the time to bring you on. And there's good reason for it as well, folks. And you're going to find out what that is soon. But to start off with, we're going to find out all about you and let these guys into a lot of the stuff I already know, but your journey as a trader. So how did it all start?
I was introduced to trading by a friend of mine who wasn't a particularly good trader. Trading wasn't his primary source of income. I took an interest in it. I had time on my hands. I thought, well, this might be a good idea because I could do this from home. I had some resources behind me. I had no deadline to meet in terms of how long this was going to take. And yeah, I thought, great, this could be just what I'm looking for. Working from home, not have to worry about traveling to work anymore. All the things that come with when you're working for somebody else. That journey started about 12 years ago, but I didn't really know where to start. I had a few tips from my friend. I really couldn't get my head wrapped around what he was doing. I ended up subscribing to a futures trade room, and as a part of that, it wasn't really a course. It was just people trading within a room, and it was all based on a proprietary indicator that would highlight, when to buy, where your target would be, all the bits that you would get with that. And I had some success. I started trading oil futures. I had my first major trade, which was, I call it a major trade, not so much now, but back then it was. My first ever trade, I think, was about $1,200 US, and I got it in about 22 seconds, if I remember rightly. I was elated, as you can imagine. I went straight back in, and I gave about 700 of that back as quickly as I made the original 1,200. That was a very important early lesson. I realized that I could lose money just as quick, or if not quicker, than I could actually make it. That raised some questions for me. I'm being sort of an inquisitive, analytical kind of guy. I needed to understand why I gave that $700 back. Why did that happen? Obviously, the answer was I didn't understand what I was doing. I was relying on somebody else's methodology. And I realized that I was going to learn nothing about trading by relying on somebody else's methodology or somebody else's indicator. Okay. They didn't actually teach you trading in the trade room. They were just showing examples of when the indicator was at its best, for argument's sake. Yeah. That sent me down a rabbit hole. I decided to basically stop, and I stopped for a while, and I decided to study and learn, and basically spent 12, 14, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, just staring at the charts and trying to work out why certain things were happening, rather than just taking for granted that they were happening. I thought if I could understand what's driving the price, then I could better manage risk. I could filter out poor quality setups that met the core rules of my strategy. If I could improve on my trade management, there was so much to benefit by taking a deep dive. But like I said, I had time and resources to be able to do that, and I know a lot of people may not have those resources behind them to be able to spend so much time at the charts.
Now, if you're loving the show and thinking, where can I go and trade? Why don't you check out my prop firm sponsor, Blue Guardian. Now, these guys have been around for ages. They've been sponsoring Trading Up for over a year. And some of the key features that make them so good is that they've got realistic profit targets for their challenge phases. It's only 8 or 4%. They also have a scaling plan up to $2 million, and they do profit splits of 85%, which is really high for this industry. They also have quick and reliable payouts and a robust reserve that make sure those payouts are as seamless and smooth as possible. Now, if you're looking to join, go and check them out. But first, grab my coupon code TradingNut, all one word. You're going to save yourself 25% off at checkout. There's a link in the description. Go and click that now. Right, let's get back on with the show.
I decided then to get back, start trading again, but in a small way. I wanted to prove to myself that I could actually consistently make money from the from the charts. Ironically, I was trading very, very low time frames, and it was largely because I found on the lower time frames there was a lot more repetition. I could speed up my practice, if you like. Yeah. And me being me, I didn't feel as though I had the patience to wait around all day or 2 days or every 3 days, for the next trade to come. I had a need to be active, and I thought if I'm active, I'm actually learning. When I used to get a loss, I'd stop and I'd try to work out why I got that loss, rather than just accepting it was a loss. And moving on and focusing on what most people do. Basically, the winners, they focus on their their strategy and maybe their win rate and their profits. I kind of worked out early on that, or I should say, I was fortunate enough to work out earlier on that if I could focus on the downside of trading rather than the upside of trading, then there was a chance that the upside of trading could fall into place a little bit more naturally. And that was the path I took. It was I used to do things like start a new account and purposely draw it down by 50%, and then prove to myself several times in a row that I could get out of that drawdown and get that account back into profit, rather than opening an account and focusing on doubling the account or tripling the account or whatever the case was. I felt as though if I could prove that I could get myself out of drawdown when I was under pressure, then it would be a lot more easy to perhaps build on the account going forward, when I wasn't in drawdown. It was a hard slog. It took me a lot of hours, basically, a lot of study, a lot of effort, a lot of look at myself personally, making changes in myself that trading demanded, I learned early on that trading was a skill. It wasn't something that you could purchase off a shelf. Trading is a very, very personal thing. And I've probably changed more as a person during the last 12 years of trading than I've ever changed in my life, prior to that. That's kind of brought me up pretty much to where I am today.
Well, and did you have any like sort of massive, aha moments or something where you, a week or a day or something where you were just like, damn, I've cracked this thing?
Yeah, I did. It got to a stage where I realized that I had to put great emphasis on what the institutions were doing, the people that actually move in the markets, people that drive in the markets. And my focus became very much on where on the chart that they're likely to enter. So I could get in in the infancy of the move, right at the start. What I deduced from that obviously was if I could get in at the beginning, I could have a relatively tight stop loss and and increase my chances of a healthy reward. Yeah. That was the true aha moment. Looking and paying attention to what actually starts the move, not reacting to the move after the event. Yeah, that was the big aha moment for me.
It's funny, I do recall you probably a couple of years ago now saying to me, well, like you're teaching me this one particular level that was quite a strong level, and I was like, why is it so strongly? What do you think's happening? He goes, well, and you said, I don't know. I think maybe, who knows? Maybe Deutsche Bank and Citibank. There's two guys, one on each trading floor. They're talking to themselves, talking to each other, and saying, let's get in when this thing happens. We're going to get in at this level, and they've agreed, in some seedy bar that they're going to take the trade when it gets to this level, and they don't talk to each other ever again, but they know when this thing happens, we get in. And that was your answer. You didn't know the answer, but you knew that that's what they were probably all doing, which I found quite fascinating. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, if I could just add a tad onto that. Basically, I worked out that I didn't need to know why they were going to do it. I just needed to know when they were going to do it and where, at what point on the chart. Hence the reason you got the answer from me that you did.
Yeah, exactly. And so were there any sort of like, was there a financial sort of target that you hit and you were like, man, I've cracked this thing?
Yeah, I initially, it wasn't a large account back then. I thought, right, if I can double the account and I can double the account again, and I can continue kind of in that fashion. I was very active back then trading. I'm not so active these days trading. I still trade, but not nowhere near as frequently as I did back then. And that they were benchmarks to me. Like I drew the accounts down to build the account back up. Going forward, I found was considerably easier, if you like, compared to getting yourself out of the drawdown and the mental, trauma that some people might get when they're actually in a period of, large drawdown, right? If you're down 50% your account, you've got to double, you got to get 100%. You've got to grow that account by 100% just to get back where you were. So yeah, double the account. I thought, right, if I can double the account. And then what I done after that was when I realized that doubling the account was just a matter of time, I decided then to throw some personal challenges in and try to double that account within a set period of time, rather than just saying it's going to double. It's going to double when it's going to double. Yeah, obviously there was a monetary target in there to double the account, but I'd say, okay, I want to double the account in 2 weeks or a week. Yeah, and I had one. I suppose it was a big milestone. Looking back at the markets, there was major news going on in the markets at the time. A lot of political stuff that was going on, and I was trading Euro USD back then, and the market was it was the biggest I'd ever seen the volatility in Euro USD. And basically, I didn't double the account, but I think I grew the account by 70 something percent on that day.
Right.
Yeah, but it was just fortunate, right? I was fortunate that I had the volatility there, so I could get in the trade and I was getting really good R on my winners. Yeah. And it was just a fantastic day. Again, it was a milestone. It wasn't exactly how I thought it was gonna plan out, but that's how it kind of like fell into place.
And so when, you obviously sort of got some consistency there after that initial success. I mean, what did you sort of adapt, change, or do after you sort of had broken the back of like, I've now got pretty much most of the pieces of the puzzle together?
I studied even more. I didn't rest on my laurels. And what I found from spending so much time at the charts, and this even applies today, I can look at the charts now, and I would probably say about definitely at least once a month, sometimes once a fortnight. I look at the charts, I go, I didn't go, why? Wow, I've just learned something new. And I wasn't particularly looking for it. And I said, well, why didn't I see that, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, right? I'm still learning, okay? But I'm not learning anywhere like the pace that I was learning, prior to that. Yeah. So it helps to keep me interested. I've deduced that if you come into the world of trading, be prepared to continue to learn throughout your entire trading journey. And if you're not prepared to learn throughout your trading journey, then I think you've got a good chance of stagnating.
Hey folks, what a view behind me. I'm at Black Bull Markets headquarters here in Auckland, New Zealand. Speaking of views, you can get TradingView paid plans for free at Black Bull Markets, saving you up to $600 a year. That's right, get either the Essential, Plus or Premium plans absolutely free, and all you need to do is trade from one lot a month at Black Bull Markets. And you can also get a 100% deposit bonus for your first deposit up to $1,000. All you need to do is click the Trading Nut link in the description below.
Actually, one of the things that, we haven't really spoken about around talking about it in this show, but it just occurred to me, so one thing that people won't probably know and definitely won't get out of the show unless I ask the question is the fact that you label essentially all the different elements with certain, I suppose, either abbreviations or words that you have found over your years of sort of seeing something new, right? So instead of just seeing something, you're going to go and see it. Obviously, in fact, you tell us, what would you do? You'd see it, and then how would you get to the point where you then label it and give it a name, give it an abbreviation, and sort of lock it away and go, right, this is something that I'm going to use going forward in my trading?
Yeah, that is something that you would see repeating itself time and time again. But if you're down on the lower time frames, you're going to see it multiple times every day. You're going to see it on all time frames, regardless of what the time frame is. When you see something enough, you understand, right? There's a definite edge there. Is an exploitable edge, okay? And then I would just name it or label it based upon what I'm seeing. There was no sort of real format, to it. It's a bit like if the guy looks like a John, his name is John. Take from that what you will, but I come up with, I've got terminology for everything that, as you know, I've got terminology for everything that I see at the charts. Okay. To add a little bit more onto that, because I've spent so much time at the charts, it's second nature to me now. The stuff that I used to look for, I no longer look for. It finds me. I don't have to try. It kind of jumps off the charts and says, hello, look at me, I'm here. I'm it's riding a bike to me now.
Yeah, it's a bit like, so if anyone kind of wants to get an idea for what it's a bit like, because obviously you've taught me a lot, if not, pretty much everything you know. And it's a bit like what people would probably relate to ICT in terms of like a fair value gap or a FVG and other terms that are being banded around the internet. But the ones that JJ knows aren't anything to do with ICT. And in fact, they're all very unique to what he does as a trader, and none of them are sort of, maybe one or two correlate, but yeah, very few of them correlate to what you do, and that's what ICT traders do in that space. Now, what about like advising traders that are, wanting to get to the point where you are? How on earth do they get there? What sort of advice would you give?
First of all, trading attracts, to the newcomers to trading. It attracts people that so many, and I see it constantly. There's a lot of naivety out there. there's a big emphasis on, getting rich quick, and basically buying into the what I call the false dream. It's a lure to get to, that other traders and organizations use to basically extract some money out of their pockets. Yeah. So number one is come to it with an open mind. Okay. This is a game that is dominated by professionals. So if I could just give you an analogy, regardless of where you are in the world, pick your favorite sports team. I'm going to use soccer here. Not that I'm a soccer fan, but soccer. It's like, Cam, you play soccer, right? You love soccer.
I play football. Yeah? I mean, football, soccer, call it what you want. I think
soccer. Is it soccer?
The Brits are all going to be going to be like football, and the Americans will be soccer. Anyway, yeah.
So 11 guys chasing around a pitch, right? Yeah. Okay. It's like you going on now at your level and playing Manchester United at your level, and you expect to win. Yeah. I mean, that's being pretty naive, right? Okay. But people don't think of that when they're actually coming into the arena of trading. You've got about a 95, maybe 98% chance the other person that's taken, the person that's taken the other side of your trade is an institution. That's who your competition is. Treat that seriously, because institutions, if they don't make money, they're going to go out of business. And these good institutions are there year after year, decade after decade. You've got the major banks all over the world playing this game and constantly extracting large profits out of the market. How do they do that? Because they're good at what they do. They employ professionals. These people are at the top of their game. When you step into trading and you first go live, you're going live because you actually believe that you're going to make some money. If you believed you weren't going to make any money, you'd probably stay in a demo account. You stepping into that Premier League, if you like, okay, and expecting to take their money. Now, have you ever walked into a financial institution and they've offered to give you some of their money? No. They're very good at taking your money, okay? Don't be naive. You are up against the best in the world. Understand who your opponent is. Okay. And if you want to understand who your opponent is, you need to study them. And that's what I done with all those hours that I spent. I studied, in essence, my opponents. So I knew who they were. Now I had a chance of being on a more level field, and being smaller than them, that actually gave me some advantages as well.
And so, like, I mean, you obviously taught me, and we started 4 years ago. I couldn't believe it. It was like when COVID kind of hit, I wasn't the best student. I've got to be honest. I had so many other commitments. I was working a full-time job, doing the podcast, family, etc. And it was, I suppose, veered off. And like, I know now that I was just a terrible student, in fact. But were there any other people you ended up training, like across your trading career? And how did it go?
Yeah, there has been, but only few in number. The first one was my wife. That kind of like made sense. She had time on her hands. Trading it's not her passion. I asked her, I said, would you like to have a go at this? And she said, well, I don't really know what it is I'm doing. I said, don't worry, I'll guide you. And I said, I'd like to try and prove a point. Could my approach to the markets be replicated by somebody else? That was what I was trying to prove. So I asked her kindly if she could bear with me for a wee while, and I sat next to her pretty much. I was there on her shoulder, overseeing it. And I was saying, no, this is not a good time to buy. This is not a good time to sell. I was literally holding her hand. It wasn't long. I can remember I got out of bed a bit late one morning, and she is actually lying on the sofa, and she's got a phone in her hand. And as I walked past, I could see that she's got a trading chart on her phone. Up until this point, the only trading I'd ever seen her do was, at the PC. And I said, what are you doing? Are you studying? Oh, no, she said, I'm actually trading. I said, how many trades have you taken? This was the first time, right? And she said, I think it's about 10. I said, can I have a look at your P&L? Yeah, so we go to the P&L in the phone. She'd actually won 9, I think it was 9 out of 11 trades, if I remember correctly, on her phone. And on a phone, you've got not much of a chart to actually refer to, right? Yeah. I mean, she was only trading one strategy at that point. Okay. So she wasn't, but it was a very high probability strategy. Okay. It's especially on her understanding of it. You say, look, this is a good strategy, but it's not going to win all the time. Okay. But so if you've got a good understanding of when you can, of how to filter out what is a high and a low probability strategy and just trade the ones that are high, you should get a very high win rate. Now she carried on trading on the phone for a number of weeks after, and she got losers. But I think the worst I ever seen on a phone was about 70% win rate. That's the worst I think I ever saw on a phone. Yeah, and she like I said, she'd done that for a while. She did it for a good number of weeks. She came back to the computer, and I said, right now, let's set you a challenge, right? Let's see what you can do in a day. Okay. So we popped some extra money into a trade account so she could trade a bigger size. Okay. And that day, it was, I wouldn't say, her win rate or anything really wasn't any different to any other day, but because she was trading a bigger size now, she could capitalize on that. Yeah. And she made, I think it was a little over 5,000 on the first day of actually doing this. And I was like gobsmacked. It was almost like she was a natural. And I'm saying, I said, if you can do that today, you can do it tomorrow, you can do it another day. But she wasn't into trading. She wasn't, it's not her passion, right? Her passion, believe it or not, is the garden and photography. That's a real passion. And she said, well, I don't want to continue. And she didn't have to, there wasn't a need for her to continue. Yeah. She did continue trading for a little while after, with good success. Yeah. But her heart wasn't in it, even though yeah. I believe that she had an ability, but she had good guidance, right? Yeah. She had good guidance.
And how many trades would she have taken for that five grand day?
Oh, probably. Oh, off the top of my head, she's not here for me to ask her, but I'd probably say 12.
Okay, so there's a lot of trading, and that's in one session or two sessions.
Yeah, I was one session on a 5-minute chart. That was Euro USD. Yeah.
Yeah, 12 trades on a 5-minute chart, one session. Now, folks, if you're thinking this is crazy, it kind of is crazy, because what I know is that JJ's got like about 25 strategies that he uses to trade on like any time frame, and that's just a certain type of strategy. There are other strategies as well. It goes deep, right? It goes really deep, hence why there's such a high number of trades, and that's why I asked the question. Now, with this in mind, I just want to tell them about what we've got going on here on Trading Nut in the future, because, folks, if you're thinking, okay, I'm liking this interview, I want to know more, I potentially want to even learn from JJ and learn what he's done and get a massive, intensive mentorship with him, then listen up, because this is pretty unbelievable. So after all this time, I've finally managed to get him on the show. Not only that, is we're going to go and see some of his P&L very soon, and there's a place to see even more of it in a second. So I'm going to tell you about that. We're also got this new thing where we've just started it, and we're trying to see if we can educate even more people than just his wife and myself and maybe a couple of others in what he does. And we've got some beta testers that have been working behind the scenes that we're going to start sharing with you next week on Trading Nut and going forward in a new series here called the Dynamic Traders Series. And as part of that, we're potentially looking to launch something called the Dynamic Traders Club if all the beta testing goes well. And this is the kind of thing that people really want to help their trading. So, folks, if you do want to get involved in that, so there's a couple of things you can do. One is leave your email address in the form on the link below the video or in the podcast description or wherever you're watching this. Go and hunt out Trading Nut and find that YouTube video or podcast and fill in your email address. Not only will you get to see all of JJ's track record, you'll also get to find out a bit more about the Dynamic Trader series, and you'll also get a chance to win a mentorship, an intensive mentorship with JJ valued at $150,000. Folks, this is no word of a lie, okay? This is a humongous intensive internship where you essentially learn everything. And I've had 4 years of it, right? Just learning, constant new stuff. So if you guys want to get involved in that, link below the video, go and check it out. We'll give you a reminder at the end of the show as well. But before we dive into that, we've got a couple of more questions to get through here. So the first thing is, do you want to give the guys a little bit of a verbal overview of your track record in the last couple of years or two, a year or two, and then we'll dive into a few more questions.
Okay, I've been trading consistently profitable for the last decade. Journey's been about 12 years. Took about 2 years really to find my feet. Okay, I trade many different strategies, and the results vary obviously, but I always maintain a pretty good equity curve and a healthy P&L. And depending on the trading style, as they can see from my trade history, there's going to be a 75-80% win rate. That's pretty normal. That's pretty normal for me. Yeah. I don't honestly recall the last losing month. That would have been way back. Yeah. In my earlier learning days. Yeah. The last losing day I had was a little while back, not too long ago, but I came to the charts. I was feeling a little unwell that day. I kind of tricked myself into believing I was well enough, but I think I took something like three losers, and I just packed up. I took three losers off the bat, and I just thought, right, that's a sign. Let's pack it in. That was a little while ago. If I start the day underwater, my primary goal comes to, get above water again. Yeah. And even if you don't make much money that day, at least you can finish the day knowing that that you haven't finished in a drawdown. Yeah. My average R is, can I trade the low, predominantly trade the lower time frames, it's around about 2 is the average R. Yeah, which is it's quite a feat to do that as your average, not as a one-off or an outlier. Okay. However, the trading the way that I trade, it's not uncommon, to get a 5, 6, 7, 8 hour trade. Okay, that's not uncommon. That can happen. I'm not saying that happens every day, but like I said, it's not uncommon at all. Yeah. And what they'll see from my P&L is my losses are very small as well. So, like I said, I've got no problem in actually cutting a trade short if I don't believe it's working out. So the average losing R is going to be under 0.5. I'd say anywhere between, depending, on the account, style of trading, 0.3 to 0.4. And probably 0.4 being the slightly higher side. You're down on the lower time frames. You've got to factor in your commissions. Okay, it would be lower than that if that was a higher time frame model, obviously, because commissions don't impact your P&L so much. Yeah. So that's pretty much a standard summary of a typical P&L.
Nice. Well, look, folks, as we mentioned, link below the video for that or the podcast description. Go and fill your email address in. You're not just going to get that, but you're going to get a chance to win mentorship with them, as well as a bit more about the Dynamic Trader series, which is coming up, and being able to follow along with that. So let's dive in with a few more questions here. So, like, if you were a struggling trader, right, so you had 10 hours to give to trading each week, how would you break those 10 hours up?
Do you know what? That's a very good question. I can, as you know yourself, I speak to very few. There's a handful of traders that I communicate with. So I can only really use my journey, my experience, and and use that as basically as a template for others. And for anybody that I would take under my wing in a mentorship, it's going to be study. That's the primary goal. It's going to be study. This game takes knowledge. It takes quite a bit of knowledge. To do things like understand when your trade is going wrong, it's not working out. Okay, wrong is not the right question. The probabilities have changed. Okay, what's a novice trader going to do? Just exactly what I done when I first started, which is probably going to be, well, and I had this thing in my head which I heard on probably back on YouTube back in the day was, well, look, don't move your stop to break even until your trade gets to 1 hour. It gets to 0.9 hour. You don't move your stop. You don't negate the risk. Conditions are changed, but you can't read a chart. And then you sit there and invariably you get stopped out, and you've done nothing to prevent that capital preservation. And you're left scratching your head. And you don't know why it happened. And if you don't know why it happened, you're just going to put that down into the category of, well, that's just one of the losers. Now, what I don't agree with this is that kind of, if you can't understand when your trade is the probabilities has changed, or whether the probabilities of your setup is low or high to start with, then you're compelled to take every trade that presents itself. When your strategy presents its edge, you're compelled to take it because you don't know which ones are good or high probability and which ones are not. Some of that you can learn from experience over time. My focus was, let's find out what can make my trade go wrong, not right. I looked at the markets completely the reverse to perhaps the majority.
Indeed. Definitely the reverse to the majority. Folks, we're going to dive into a couple more questions here. In fact, I think it's only one more. If you are loving this interview, don't worry. There's tons more of this that we've got coming here in the Dynamic Traders series that is going to start dropping next week. So, folks, don't miss that. Right now, when it comes to finding a strong edge in the market, what areas would you recommend somebody study? I think you've already given us a hint here, but if you give us maybe your top 3, if you were going to go away and go, right, study these things, what should they be?
Well, study. Learn before you earn. Yeah. Know your opponents. Okay. What you're looking at there on the charts, in my opinion, is not random. Every move is started because there were orders there, and there is a pattern to this. Study. I suppose the best bit of advice I could give overall, it might sound a little bit grey, but my focus wasn't on me. My focus was on what everybody else was going to do. And I needed to see what everybody else was going to do. And when I could see what they were going to do, then I could play that game on their level. It would either get me into a high probability trade or keep me out of a low probability trade. Okay. So don't just study. Don't just put all the emphasis upon your strategy. Okay. What is everybody else doing? Don't just sit there and just say, okay, I'm in a short here. My trade's at 4R, like one of the testers recently, and sit there and give the 4R back to the market and get out for a break even. He gave a 4R back because he didn't understand that there was a high probability setup there that people were going to jump into, or likely to jump into, and buy against his position and consume all his profits. That, focus, try not to be wrapped up in your own world. Pay attention to what your opponents are doing. Learn about your opponents, and then you can play their game.
Yeah, and we won't go into too much detail around that because we have got a Dynamic Trader series coming up, which we're going to touch on some of this stuff in probably a lot more detail. Now, there is no way to really contact JJ. So if you're looking to find out how to get in contact with him, you're not going to be able to get in contact with him. The best way to do that is to jump below. There's a link to a form, fill in your email address. You're going to get one entry to this competition to win mentorship with him. It's $150,000 worth of value in here. We used ChatGPT to come up with the value, by the way. We're not just pulling it out of air, but we put in what kind of knowledge he has to share. And he's also mapped out a 67-day program, isn't it? Like the worth of stuff
It's about
as well.
it's about a 13-week, around about 70 hours, 70 hours, but it's pretty, it's a pretty full on 70 hours, but 2 or 3 hours every Saturday and Sunday, so to speak, for about a 3 months, give or take,
Yeah.
depending on how quick the the student is, basically.
Yeah. And I can assure you there is no fluff in here at all. I mean, just personally, I've probably learned, I would say, maybe 60 or 70 different elements, maybe even more, of a price chart in particular that I didn't know before, all labeled and very mechanical to work out. There's no sort of kind of discretion here. It is very sort of like mechanical approach to trading. Now, we've also got the beta testers that we have doing this dynamic traders stuff, right? So we're going to do a whole series on this where we're going to follow the journey of this dynamic trader approach and see if it works, see if other people can really sort of take it on board and move it forward. Now we're going to do a little clip in the video after you opt in on that page, and you're going to find out more about that. The first episode will be dropping next week, so do not miss that. And last but not least, you're also going to get to see the full-on mapped out screenshots of JJ's P&L as well that he mentioned in the show. So look, mate, thanks for finally coming on Trading Nut. It's an absolute pleasure to get you on finally.
Yeah, I mean, you've been nagging me for a long time to come on, and as you know, I don't go around sharing my stuff with just any old body,
Yeah.
But I've kind of enjoyed today, and I kind of look forward to maybe being a part of what's hopefully going to happen going forward.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, folks, I'll tell you what, you've not even really scratched the surface of what this guy knows and can share and help you out from either like a trading psychology point of view, reading the chart point of view, all the stuff that we've got going on around Dynamic Traders series. It's all coming up here on Trading Nut. So please make sure you hit subscribe, like, and that notifications bell so you don't miss out. We'll see you in the next one.